Good day, and welcome to this edition of Newsmakers. Newsmakers is a presentation of JATV in conjunction with the Rock County Civics Academy, where our goal is to bring people into your living room, as it were, help you get a chance to get to know the people who are making the news today, who are working hard to improve the quality of life we enjoy here in Rock County. And the hope is you get to know them just a little bit better and maybe get a bit of the story behind the story. Joining me in the studio today is Bill Sodemann. And Bill is, welcome Bill first. How are you?
Doing well.
Thank you for joining us. Thank you for joining us. You're not here in your capacity as a small business owner in downtown Janesville, although I may slip a question or two in about that. But really, what I want to talk about today is your long history of involvement in education in the region, and specifically your involvement in the Janesville School District. So the goal of the conversation is I want to take a little bit of a trip down memory lane and see where we've been and talk about where we can potentially go and how we're getting there. How would you describe let's say 2002, 2003, 2004, when Bill Sodemann sitting in his office thinking to himself, something's not working here and I need to do something about it? Talk about that, Bill.
Well, I was interested in being involved with local politics or government, and we actually were homeschooling our kids. So I might be one of the few people in the country who was on a public school board who homeschooled and eventually became president of the school board. Mm-hmm. Now, as our kids became high school age, they transitioned into public schools.
There were reasons, though, why you were homeschooling, were there not?
Yeah, it was part faith-based, but also just what you get for quality. Mm-hmm. And even if the schools were better, mm-hmm. it was hard to compete with my wife, who was the main educator. I was a principal, so I mm-hmm. drove the van for the field trips. Yeah. Yeah. Other than that, she was the one who got the success, and I could brag on my kids all day long as far as how they performed once they got into public schools. But we wanted, of course, the best for our kids, and we think that our biggest job as parents is mm-hmm. to provide them a quality education. So.
Was there a particular event or series of events that got you to say to yourself, I'm going to make the sacrifice and I'm going to stand up and be counted and I'm going to run for public office? Because that's a big step for not only you as an individual, but for you as a young family with young kids. It's a family choice. So how did you get there?
Well, I ran in 1998 for the state senate, finished second. And finishing second means that you don't win, of course. Mm-hmm. And I think my wife was even kind of pushing it where I was in Branson with the kids and she was up here, and the filing deadline was coming up and we weren't sure, and she went ahead and filed the papers, and then at that point we were all in. Mm-hmm. I wanted mm-hmm. to make a difference, and wanting to sometimes bring business ideas into education. Mm-hmm. And later on we'll talk about the fact I think we did such a good job that I was later on thinking about how I can bring some of the things I learned in education mm-hmm. back to my business, even because of the success we were having. So how can we make a difference? My mother was a teacher, mm-hmm. uncle's a teacher, brothers were teachers, mm-hmm. Cousins.
So let's go way back. Something made you run for assembly way back when. What was the driving force?
I guess just overall values and trying to spend our money wisely. Mm-hmm.
And ultimately finishing second in an assembly race, you don't even get a medal for participation.
No. That was state senate, actually.
Or state senate. Well, even there you don't even get a medal for participation. No. It's on to other things, and that's how your life evolved. And so you find yourself in 2005, you won with an overwhelming majority, did you not?
5 votes.
5 votes.
5 votes kept me from...
But you know what? 50% plus 1 is all it takes.
Yeah.
It's kind of what I tell people today. There's 9 people on the school board, right?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
And that means that most of life is controlled by the rule of 5.
There you go.
It's the majority, and it's true in just about every governing board you can think of. But 5 votes is as good as 5,000 votes.
Well, it was kind of tense that night watching the returns, and at first it was like on a higher count, and then they made a slight mistake, which made it down to a 5-vote margin, so a little bit
Well,
narrow.
it keeps you on edge, and it prepares you for what's up and coming. Did you have any idea what you were getting into when you ran for school board?
A little. I was following it, looking at the current budgets, that kind of stuff, so I had an idea, but until you actually get involved with it, and I would even say for a couple of years, it takes you to get engrossed in it, to understanding it enough to be more of a difference maker.
It takes a while, and when you go in with your eyes focused on the ball that says, I want to introduce some more business principles into the school district, and I want it to run more like my business would run in its best days, and you're one of 9, and you face an institution that it's been around a whole lot of years, and it's a product of its ways.
Yep.
How do you deal with that in those first couple of years?
Well, I think the issue is that our district was seen as being okay, but there were no real measurements as to what okay was. And perhaps you've heard this saying from a book, I believe, that sometimes the opposite, or the hard part of becoming great, is if you're okay or good, because you don't know or want to take the risk to get better. So when things are going along okay, you can be, quote, satisfied and not want to take the next step to becoming great.
Yeah. There's also that book out there that says, I'm okay with being kind of average and just getting along, because I don't really know what great looks like.
Exactly. There weren't measurements in place, and there's even a book called Going from Good to Great, and how sometimes good is the challenge to get to great, because you don't feel the emergency of.
Well, there's a little complacency that sets in when you can look back and you say, you know, we're doing a good job. We're doing a good job, Bill. But to make that conscious choice to, I want to do a great job, that takes, the rule of 5 comes into play again. How do you get your fellow board members to that same position on the chart as Bill Sodemann and saying, I want something better?
I'm not sure I did it. So after my second year on the board, there's a gentleman who used to teach in our district named Quint Studer, who was a Whitewater grad, my alum, so plug in for Whitewater. And I believe he started in our district as a special education teacher. And then after that, he went to Mercy, worked for them, rose the ranks, and eventually became a head of a hospital down in Chicago, and turned it around. Went down to the Florida area, did the same thing there, started using his principles of how to turn hospitals around to be a consultant. And then I think he kind of remembered how healthcare in some ways is very much like dealing with a special education student and how you treat that. And so he said, well, how can we make what we do in healthcare work in education? And because he was from here, he donated tons of services. We were kind of like his guinea pig of doing this as how can we make
at the
my
time,
principles.
At the time, he'd left Mercy a long time prior, and he'd started on a route that only Quint could really explain to all of us, and one of these days we'll have him here to do that. But the Janesville School District really was kind of the first.
We were the
that
first.
He said, I think I can take my principles of excellence and apply it in the world of education.
So when the Dr. Everett, who was at the time superintendent, brought up this idea of going to a conference to learn about these principles, my initial reaction was thinking, okay, here's another government-run educational thing. I'll go, but I'm not expecting much. And boy, was I surprised. And Quint has a way of not just making sense, but doing it in a way that's storytelling, that's engrossing and even humorous. And so coming back from that first meeting in Florida in like 2007, I was gung-ho. And it was no longer factions on the board, left or right. Hey, here's the goal for education. I don't care what your politics are. We got to focus on these things. And it became very unifying. So we had people on the board, you know, from Tim Cullen. He and I are in different political parties, if you will, but it didn't matter because we were both fighting for the same thing together to make those accomplishments. So we had a nice mixture of people, and it became the goal to make our district better, not to worry about left or right or those sort of things.
Well, and it's kind of a beautiful example of how you get back to basics in local government. And don't take this wrong, but the school district board of trustees in a public school system, that is local government.
Oh yeah.
That's local government at its very, very best or worst. And to turn it into a partisan forum just goes against every principle of nonpartisan focus on educational excellence.
Right.
Yeah. So if you can take the politics, big P, out of the equation, life gets a little easier, doesn't it?
Yeah. And there's, we had sometimes had people on the board I'd be in agreement with, sometimes not based upon their backgrounds, based upon the issue of the day. And but again, though, we got along really well and focused on here's our goal, and let's not.
So when was it in that journey that you had that first report that gave you that mark in time that says this is what I guess our good looks like compared to the rest of the world, and this is now that point where we have to decide what great looks like?
Well, the first step was doing surveys, because unless you survey your base, this includes your parents, includes your staff, even students, you don't know where you're at. And so that first survey is, okay, where are some areas that we got troublesome? Where do we focus on that? And that kind of started guiding the goals, if you will. And so it's a matter of not just having standards, but also things in place to have our staff happier, more engaged, more committed. You do much better in your work if you figure part of the final solution. The old story about one guy's putting bricks together, and you ask him what he's doing. Well, I'm putting these bricks together. You ask the same guy another question. He's, well, I'm building a wall. So he is a bit more involved. Ask the third guy, hey, I'm building this cathedral. So they're all doing the same thing, but the person you know is a part of the process to build a cathedral is much more invested. Their attitude, it's just night and day. And so how to change a culture, if you will, of we're all in this together, we're going to be pulling together and doing things to help make that culture better.
And there's no better unifying principle than setting a goal common across the board that everybody can identify with. Were there student achievement score tests at the state level that each district took every year so that you had some indicator of where the Janesville School District stood from a school testing perspective?
I don't think that existed much back then. So if it did, I'm not aware of it. It has been obviously the last 10, 15 years.
So how did you know if you were good, if you were below average, if you were, what were the indicators that you as members of the school board looked for to make that determination? Because without some sort of measure, you can be whatever you want to be.
Exactly. And so once the state report cards came out, they're not perfect, but they give you a good measurement. And so now we had things we could, okay, how do we climb this ladder? And so it was a fun journey to make. We even called it our Journey to Excellence, was the name of our program, if you will. And
it began roughly, what, 2009? It was in place and operating?
Yeah. Approved like in 07 or so, 08, and then fully up and running and more. Then the new superintendent, Dr. Schulte, took over. Her being an internal person, already being involved with the process, she was all in on this and 100%, which was very helpful.
Well, and Dr. Schulte, Karen did she was a real champion of the system.
Hard worker too.
Extremely hard worker and very intensely involved in it. And I got to know her through the international program or programs, and really gained an appreciation for just how focused she can be.
I remember a couple of times I was up in the middle of the night thinking about something and can't in mind. I sent her an email, maybe 3 or 4 in the morning, and like 5:30 a.m. I get a response telling me what she liked about it, whatever, and good. So it was,
it's amazing how that happens. Tell me about the first few years. How did things go? You're trying to change the culture of a large organization. I mean, you've got over 1,000 employees. Most of them are educators. Many of them there for very long periods of time. You can argue some are set in their ways. How did you progress?
Pretty well. So just doing the surveys, getting people's opinions, getting their input alone was a winning step, because now they finally had a chance to respond and give their ideas. And one of the things of changing the culture is how to respond to those ideas. And we've all been in places where you make a suggestion, you think it goes nowhere, nobody heard it, whatever. Well, one of the quote Studer guidelines, we call them a stoplight report.
Yeah.
So you make a request, I don't play a we-they game. Say, Rich, I'd like to help you out, but administration, they just won't back me on this. That creates a division. Instead, I will give you an answer, either green, which is, hey, we liked your idea, we're going to proceed, maybe a couple changes, here's what's going on. Maybe red, Rich, it just doesn't make sense here, at least you know, versus saying it goes nowhere. Or we call yellow, hey, it's not right now, but we kind of like it, whoever has to change until then, but at least you know that your involvement was received and responded to and being acted on.
Let's click the clock forward a little bit. And we're into the 2011, 12, 13 timeline. And things are moving along pretty smoothly.
Yeah.
You've got some finally indicators that say you're meeting your goals, you're meeting your objectives, and I'm even hearing people at that point in time say, that's a pretty good school district. What happened in that intervening period from kickoff until then that puts you in a position where you could honestly say, we're doing better?
Well, it's step by step. Again, improvements don't happen overnight. When I'm trying to lose some weight, it takes months. I can't just wake up one day. Lipo doesn't work, if you will. And so starting to see results. So when you start doing a couple things and numbers start building, it fosters a nice spiral of achievement. I want to get better yet.
And people react to little victories.
Oh, yeah.
And little victories over time, they accumulate into big victories. So things are steamrolling along pretty darn well. And now we're into that point in time where, well, you had a change in school board membership, maybe a change internally in the organization. What happened that the emphasis on this program kind of diminished at a stage in time, and I'm going to say, just roughly in the calendar, 2016, 2017, 2018, what happened?
Well, the last year we were involved with the process was the 16-17 school year. Look at our numbers, and that last year I was on the board, our scores from the DPI was a 75 points. And they rank districts based upon categories. You have your large districts, your medium districts. So we're in the medium size, and we just missed number one in the state by a smidgen, half a point. And so I was leaving the board, hoping that the new board would continue on. The new superintendent, Dr. Schulte, retired the same time I got off the board roughly, that they would keep this process, which has worked so well, keep it going. But it got shelved, and the program basically went away.
Why did it get shelved? What happened? Because when you have something in place that's working, what changes so dramatically that you say one day it's here and it's great, and the next day it doesn't exist anymore?
I'm not sure if it got cut off right away or just got de-emphasized. They started changing some of the goals. I was kind of not involved as heavily at that point. So I'm not sure, but that's kind of what I started asking. Is I looked at the last 8 years since then and what our scores have done.
Well,
they've been
put us
horrible.
into perspective. Put us into scores from today in comparison, and you're no longer at the top of the proverbial heap, as they say, just a smidgen, a half step away from number one. You're gracing the bottom 10.
Yeah, we went from a 75 to 55.7.
Yeah,
a 20-point drop, which is
that has to raise eyebrows at a minimum.
I think because of COVID, that kind of for a while there.
Well, we blame a lot of things on COVID, and it sometimes they're legitimate reasons to blame it on COVID, and other times it's a really convenient out.
Yeah.
But a 20-point drop is huge.
The goals got changed, and there's one of the sayings that Quint mentions in his book: "What gets measured gets done." So if I'm going to judge you based upon a certain measurement, you're going to focus on that.
Right, right.
Back when we were in school a few years ago, right? So teachers.
Previous century.
Right.
Yeah.
So you're in classroom and someone asks the teacher, "Will this be on the test?"
Yeah.
Well, if he or she says no, you're going to tune out, not care about it. And they say, "Well, of course it will be." All of a sudden now you're focusing on that.
Yeah.
Well, it's the same as life. So if you know your bonuses or your recognition is based upon certain criteria, you're going to focus on those things. And the bonuses weren't big for the principals, but at least there was something.
Right.
Also the recognition. They just, they're competitive in a way, like you and I. They want to succeed and be recognized. And that somehow just got dropped.
It was de-emphasized, or now we all got medals for participation, and everybody was fine.
And the small bonuses that were being handed out to those who were, quote, knocking out of the park were defunded.
Yeah.
And so, again, they were very small amounts, but somehow whatever happened, and that therefore took away the whole emphasis.
Is it fair to say we kind of went into a drift period? Or is that just my harsh characterization?
I think just the lost sight of the goal.
Well, when you lose sight of any goal, the natural tendency is to lose focus and lose direction. And so we went through a period of largesse, as they would say in France, that was not a particularly comfortable time. And as an outside observer looking into the school board and trying to stay very up to date on the performance measures that are there, just get a sense of where we're going. My sense was the district was we were doing just fine. We were just getting along. We were just kind of limping along, and we were falling into that mindset that says, we're just fine. We're just average, and everything's good. And that's not necessarily where a lot of the community was thinking at the time, and the business community in particular, I think, was looking for something more from the district than what they were perceiving they were benefiting. All those things in combination kind of settled in, and we've had a change of events here. Bring us up to speed on what's going on now.
Well, a year or so ago, I decided to get more vocal about it, and I gave the Gazette some editorials, if you will, showing how what we've done in the last 8 years: fewer students, more administrative costs, worse results. Now we're having not only referendums on projects, but on operational money, which we never had in the history of our district, of having to borrow money or asking the taxpayer for more money just to run programs. So more money to accomplish less, but even more people for administrators. What's going on here? So I started raising some
pretty strong editorial comment.
Yeah, a few.
Yeah.
But I think they were fair, and I had the data to back it up.
Yeah.
And I believe now that things got bad enough, if you will, or things were dropping enough, that the board and superintendent, the new superintendent, has taken note. And although this has been kind of a negative so far of how we've dropped down, I think the good news is that they've actually re-engaged with the student group.
Okay.
And they're starting the process again.
Okay.
And the first reports came out, I believe, just this past school board meeting.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so, time will tell, but getting people involved. So, what we can do to encourage board members to keep the pressure on, if you will, our society, our community, to keep hoping those things will keep happening. Maybe encourage people to run for office that will have those kind of values to keep that happening as well. I don't care if you're a Republican or Democrat, but follow the program.
And I'm going to emphasize it's immaterial if you're a Republican or Democrat, because it doesn't matter.
No.
If you're focused on the real issue, and that's excellence, you can't put any other label on it for any other reason. Now, a couple of things come shining through in this story. Number one, you're as Bill Sodemann, very committed to civic service, to community service, and that's something that I thank you for, and I think is a commendable trait, and it's the sort of thing that I admire, and I hope that there's folks in the community that will look at this and say, you know, I'd like to model my behavior and maybe get involved because Bill gives me a sense that you can accomplish something and you don't have to be negative to do it. So that's one huge positive in it. But it's also a classic example of being tenacious and not giving up the ghost. Yes, you had your 12 years on the school board, but that was just sort of a middle step in all of this, because you were active before you got on the school board, and it probably was a great educational platform for you to learn just how business was done. And you've been active ever since in the community as an advocate for excellence in education. And not everybody does that, Bill. What's the Bill Sodemann secret that keeps you wanting to come back for more?
Well, the first part was trying to make a difference, and I was pretty discouraged when I spent 12 years of my life on the school board. It's all volunteer. Now they get paid something, I believe. I'm not sure how much. And I was very involved as a board member, not just simply voting yes or no, but this was helping to set all the parameters up, all the goals and so forth. And so when I saw that, walked out in 2017, feeling pretty good about where we now were, hoping to keep on going. And then when it didn't, in the last 8 years, I look at it, I kind of feel like, did I waste 12 years for nothing? Because what we all accomplished is now gone. So now I got some hope again that, okay, can we get back to this program?
Yeah.
Get back to, you know, putting goals front and center and measurable and...
Well, it's a beautiful example of what an individual can accomplish if they work at it. If they find a challenge out there, they embrace that challenge and invest the time, energy, and talent it takes to address that challenge, and be tenacious enough to not give up.
But it wasn't just me. It was a superintendent, other board members, that we're all on the same page, you know, going for the same goals.
Well,
so.
and every change starts with one person.
Yeah.
And if you don't have that catalyst that gets that chemical reaction working, you have a lot of chaos and not a lot of direction. And having a plan in mind makes a world of difference in how you get from point A to point B.
It wasn't just me. I think I was part of it, but there were a lot of other people that were pushing hard for it. So.
Well, and it all comes down to teamwork and that rule of 5.
Yep.
And that's really what it's all about.
It was a 9-0 vote, actually, to involve the process, unanimous, so that was a good time to get a unanimous decision.
And now, this time around, hopefully it was a 9-0 vote to re-involve the student group in the principles of where we're going to have that culture of excellence. But if it wasn't unanimous, let's see. You know, let's see what happens and see how things carry forward. Bill Sodemann, don't retire. Don't settle back on your laurels and say, I've done my thing. And I don't know why I say that, because I know you better than that. You will stay involved and you'll continue doing what you're doing. Okay. Bill Sodemann, thank you.
Thank you.
This is going to wrap this session of Newsmakers, a program of the Rock County Civics Academy, where we try to help you get a better sense of who the people are that are actively out there in your community making life better for all of us. Until next time, get involved, get informed, and you will make a difference in your community. Have a great day.